Welcome back to the How We Can Heal podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dion Leonard to the show. Dion is an Australian endurance athlete and ultramarathon runner, as well as author of the New York Times bestselling book, Finding Gobi, the memoir of his experience meeting Gobi, a small dog who joined him running almost 80 miles on a 155-mile race across the Gobi Desert in China. Today, we talk about the motivation behind these endurance events, the healing we can find along the way, and life lessons that we take from our time with ourselves and others out on the trail. Dion shares how running led him to process his difficult childhood and the impacts it had on him, along with what sparked him to change his lifestyle and habits to go from not being able to run down the block to running hundreds of miles across the world's toughest landscapes. Whether running hundreds of miles sounds ridiculous, fun, or horrifying to you, I think you'll relate to Dion's story and take inspiration from his life's journey, his relationship with Gobi, and the reflections he shares with us today. There's wisdom, humor, and heart in it all, so please join me in welcoming Dion Leonard to the show. Awesome. Well, Dion, welcome to the How We Can Heal podcast. I'm so excited to have you here and to be able to talk to you. Funny story about how I found out about your book, Finding Gobi. So my grandmother lived to be she was almost 105 when she passed in 2020. She lived in Shirley, Long Island. And her neighbor, Vinny, who I feel like I can only say, I don't know if I can really do the New York accent well, but he has that classic Long Island accent, apparently told my dad about your book. My dad knows that my partner and I met ultra running. We're ultra runners. So he's like, oh, Vinny told me about this book, about this dog who followed this guy through the desert. So then I ended up getting the book as a Christmas gift and read it within a few days, of course, fell in love like everyone does, shared it with my partner. And just a little shout out to Vinny across the street from my grandma back in the day, sharing that information. And I don't know, I'm going to have to ask Vinny where he heard about you.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, and thanks to Vinny as well for recommending the book to you. And that's what we found. The book's got this continual journey on its own because of word of mouth and recommendations. And there's so many great elements to the Finding Gobi book. Whether you're an ultra marathon runner or a dog lover, you just love a good story that has lots of drama and mystery and intrigue in it. It really is a book for everyone to be able to read as well. So I'm really proud of that, and I really love hearing stories as to how people have connected with Gobi's story as well.
Yeah, I love it. And you said it's a book for everyone. I literally have the book here that my dad gave me and that Alex read. And then I have the kids' book for my daughter. There's like an in-between one, I think for, I don't know, maybe fifth graders or something.
Yep, chapter book, which is huge across schools in the United States, and we visit schools all throughout the US. And at the moment, we're on the West Coast, but yeah, we've spent some time on the East Coast as well. And yeah, love sharing the story, reading the picture book, sharing the chapter book at schools, and yeah, they get to see Gobi as well. So it's a great presentation, which they enjoy.
Isn't it amazing what can happen when you decide to put on your shoes, sign up for a race, do something crazy that you're not really sure if you can do?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what element of the race is, right? Like whether it's 5K or 250K or 500 miles, like the races are getting longer and ridiculous now. And I think, if you're pushing yourself at any of those sort of limits, at any degree, I think that's pretty phenomenal. And I get people sometimes saying to me, "Oh, I just run 5K," and it's like, "Well, that's awesome. Good on you for doing that." And it doesn't mean just because I do longer races that I'm any better than you are. It's about our own individual journey and what we learn from that, and how that affects us or changes us going forward as well.
100%, 100%. So there's so many things we could talk about today. I want to start with you've told your story and your history so many times. I want to kind of start with where we are now. And I'm curious what's happening for you in your ultra life. Do you have any events coming up that you're training for? What are you feeling really passionate about at this stage?
I'm in a weird sort of part of my life with the ultra running. journey, I guess. Sometimes I think I'm more towards the end of it, of course, than the beginning. And that's really because I find myself feeling completed with a lot of the races that I always wanted to run. I've run races like Badwater 135 in Death Valley, California.
Mm.
I've run Western States. I've run the Grand Slam of hundreds. I've run the Triple Crown of 200s and ticked off many different adventures along the way that I always wanted to do. And the older, and I've just turned 50 this year, and the older or the last couple of years, I guess I've had less desire to want to be out for those long adventures. Nothing was really burning ambition wise to push me to the finish line anymore. Until last year, when I went out to do the Gobi 400-kilometer race, which is a 250-mile non-stop race across the Gobi. So, self-navigating, self-sufficient, self-reliant race, which really was the biggest challenge that I'd put myself through. Yes, I've run the 200-mile races in the US, but you have crew, you have checkpoints where they serve you quesadillas and burgers and hot dogs. There's a route that's marked. Of course, it's still 200 miles. It's a long way, but this race really threw me out there, and it really put me up against the limits as to whether I could finish the race. And that was exciting because I felt something still in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's something still left in me, and I'm still trying to work out what's next. I'm hoping to go back to the Gobi Desert race again in October, but I'm still trying to figure out what else I might do before then as well.
So much. I love so much about what you're saying. I've always said to people who say, "Oh my God, you're running how far?" And I don't do the multiple hundreds. I signed up for one 100-mile race, met my partner Alex at it, and that's been it. Like I've done 100 Ks, 50 milers, 50 Ks, and a whole bunch of different adventures, like multiple day stage races and things. But you have to want it. I always tell people like, whoa, you ran that far, whatever the distance is, and whoever the person is. I'm like, you have to want it. There has to be something in you that goes, oh, maybe I could do that. I kind of want to see if I can do that. I kind of want to, what would that be like? You have to have a curiosity or a passion or something stirring internally. So I feel like you're speaking to that and being really honest with yourself, not just, oh, well, I did this, so I have to do that, but ooh, 200-mile triple crown. Ooh, that sounds fun. Okay, I did that now. And there are some races, where you want to go back. You just like you build a habit of it. And then at a certain point, you're like, okay, maybe I don't need to do that one next year this time. So I think being honest with yourself and your body and your soul of like what's just interesting for whatever nth reason that we can't fully describe
Yeah,
is really important in this.
I think it's a good place to get to in your own journey, with everything, with life as well, and it's being happy and being feeling that you've completed some really great things and sort of remembering back on those achievements and events as well. Sometimes you can just finish a race and then move on to the next one and not even really take the time to think about how much work and effort there was for you to get to that finish line in the first place. And I actually just came back from Panama. I was there last week, and on Saturday I started a 100-mile race. It was actually Friday night at 6 o'clock in the night, and was meant to do 100 miles. I got to about the 100-kilometer mark, it was just over 100 Ks. And it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd been through the jungles of this Panamanian forest in knee-deep mud and water and pouring down rain. And I'd had a great adventure, but I'd also had enough.
Yeah.
And I got to the 100-kilometer point, and I was like, I'm going to finish here. There was a small town there. It was a great point to get out, and I was like really happy with it. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, I did 100 kilometers in this amazing environment that you'd never in a million years go and see the jungle that I just saw. There's no way as a tourist you'd ever find it. But I was happy with that. It was like, I, I think you can flip things around is, I guess what I'm trying to say is I just ran 65 miles.
Yes.
What a great training run. And I had fun doing it. And instead of thinking, oh, uh, I didn't finish the 100-mile race that I set out to do. It's like, that's fine. It's not my A race. It's not the biggest thing in the world. I'm building towards going back to the Gobi and running that better than I ran last year. And I'm in a really good place.
I love this too. I've had that experience. So Alex, my partner, we met at Rio del Lago at mile 37. He washed my feet. It's a fun story. And I was like, I wonder if I'll ever see that guy again. Here we are 10 years later with a kid and two dogs. So anyhow, um, we ran a race together maybe a year into our relationship, Castle Peak 100K out here I'm in California in the Lake Tahoe Mountains. And I had really been curious about that race. Like the first year they had it, I almost signed up, but something got in the way. And then it was maybe 2 years later, and we're out there on the trail. We start holding hands. People are like laughing at us. That's not going to last. You're not going to hold hands for 100K. Anyway, we ran together the whole race. We had been we were training and doing a lot of stuff together that summer. And maybe 20 miles in, I'm like, I've been trying not to say anything, but it's really hard because we're just running next to each other. And I kind of have to be honest. I was like, babe, I don't know why I'm just not really feeling it today. Like maybe you want to go ahead, or I don't know. There's something about it. Like, and he's like, oh my God, me too. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to pull you down. And so we're at the top of this climb, and it's beautiful out and we're having fun. We see people we know, but just our bodies, I'm probably still recovering from the 50 miler we had done right before that, but just like not feeling it. And so we're like, you want to just like go down to the next aid station and go hang out by the lake for the rest of the day? We're like, yeah, that sounds great. We both perk up full of energy all of a sudden, right? So we run down the hill to the aid station and we clock in. And we're like, okay, we're actually going to finish here. Just like you just said, we're going to finish here. And they're like, what? Why? What's wrong? We're like, we're not feeling it today. We're going to go sit by the lake and have a sandwich. I'm going to have to take your bib. Like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We were just so okay with it in exactly the way you just described.
Yeah.
We just ran a marathon. By the time we got to the bottom of the hill, we had done a marathon before noon on a random Saturday in the summer, and it was pretty and we enjoyed it and we felt good and we wanted to go rest and swim instead. And that felt totally good and normal to us. And there's sometimes a mindset, because a lot of these experiences are framed as a competition, and they are competitions and people win them, that we think, well, you can't just have those days where you're like, that's enough. And I think that does us a disservice because it can make us just go into this unnecessary suffering element. And then then we kind of like trample out that spark of, ooh, I'm really excited about this. Or we overtrain or we burn out, like all those things. So I love that this is a wisdom that's coming from you that you can share, and especially with all the feats you've accomplished, right? To have that knowing and to have that clarity. I feel like not everyone gets that, or some people get it by going the opposite way and going, oops, maybe I should have just tapped out on that one.
Yeah, or I could have kept pushing and finished and dragged myself through it. And but it was a really good just point to say, no, I'm complete with this. This is fun. I've had fun and there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just yeah, that's my day done. Thanks. I'm going to do something else this afternoon too. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I hope this encourages people, not just in running, but in other things. When you have that intuitive sense of completion, when you have that sense of, I could keep going in this, but at what cost? Is this diminishing returns? Is this not really aligned with my goals? Like, okay, maybe make a different plan then. Maybe do something that actually feels joyful or supportive or helpful. So you've run a ton of different races. I'm wondering, and you mentioned that moment of integration, like that space and time after to actually reflect on what you've done, to, I don't know, maybe learn some lessons or just appreciate the fact that it happened, right? And let that settle into your cells. If you could repeat one race from beginning to end that you've been through, like for whatever reason, maybe it's for the joy of it, um, just the re-experiencing of it more than anything, what would it be?
Well, I think there's three real big races that probably changed had a step change in some part of way of my life. And the first is, I think, is always the first time you run 100 miles, you're like, wow, that's incredible. It's a big push and it's a difficult achievement to get to the end of your first 100. And mine was touch and go. It was actually called the Mount Galagong 100. It was held in China, in the province up in the northwest part of the country. And I was out there with my Finding Gobi story at the time. Went to do this 100-mile race, and yeah, found myself about halfway through, just contemplating whether I was going to get to the finish line or not. Pushed and pushed and pushed. Got down in the dumps about it, thought about quitting a bunch of times, and but finally, like, managed to crawl over the finish line and feel that sense of achievement like nothing else before. And for me, finishing that first 100 really gave me this sort of belief that I could achieve more. And it really sort of that sparked me doing a couple of more hundreds before then. I wanted to try and push myself into the 200-mile range. And again, the probably next big race that I had from that moment was the Bigfoot 200 in Washington State around Mount St. Helens and the beautiful Cascade Mountains. And when I got to that race, I didn't have crew, I didn't have paces, and I wasn't sure if I could finish 200 miles. I mean, when you go to do 200 miles, you're even more unsure about yourself. It's a heck of a long way. I think there's 40 odd thousand feet of climbing in that race. It's single track. It's got blowdowns. You're through brush that you're pushing through. It can be raining and cold, and that's not my bag. Like, I love the heat, and the hotter there is, the better. So when I signed up to the Triple Crown, I'd not only signed up to Bigfoot, but of course Tahoe and Moab 240 as well. So now I'm at Bigfoot thinking, can I do one, let alone three? And that was the big sort of push for me throughout I think it took me 80 hours to do that race, and lots of blisters and lots of moments, again, like not knowing if I was going to make it to the finish line or not. But pushing and believing in myself has really been a strength that I've had since I was a young boy. Left home at a very early age, had a difficult depressive childhood, and grew up pretty quick. And so my drive and determination, or my wife calls it stubbornness, really was something that I used to my advantage at that race at Bigfoot to cross the finish line. And again, I just had this sort of mind-blowing moment where, holy heck, like, what else can I achieve? And I'd found that in the 100-mile, right? The first 100. This 200-mile race, though, was just like an explosion in my mind of what else is out there. And that led to me then, going on to do many different adventures and races all around the world, and believing in myself, not only in races, but in life as well, and taking that positivity and feeling like my brain set and mindset had changed so much. I suddenly started thinking, yeah, I can do this, I can do that, and not sort of saying no as much or not doubting yourself. So they were the two real big ones. And then the third race that I always think of, which was a bit of a changing moment for me, was the Leadville 100 bike race.
Mm.
And I did the Leadman series, which includes running a bunch of races in Leadville, Colorado, 10,000 feet of elevation. But also, as part of the series, you have to ride the 100-mile mountain bike race, which is known as the highest and hardest 100-mile mountain bike race in the United States. I don't ride mountain bikes. Like, I'm not a bike rider in any aspect. And the running races, like part of it, they were difficult at altitude. But of course, as a runner, I could tick a box on those and get them done. The whole series really relied on me finishing this bike race to be able to, go on, complete the Leadman series. And during the first 50 miles of the race, I find myself like at the back of the pack and up against the cutoffs, and not knowing if I'm going to make it to the finish line at all. Like, I'm just too slow. I'm not good enough to be able to ride anywhere near with the rest of the riders there. And this was a moment like where I had to dig deep like nowhere else before. As an ultra runner, I'd found myself running at the front, competing, winning races, being in the top 10 for most of the races that I'd run. Now I'm at the other end of the field, really being humbled by not sort of, this isn't easy now. I'd found running the races had become easy, and I'd probably become a bit stagnant with it. Now I'm like having to find something inside of me that I hadn't had to find for a very, very long time. So I get through to about 80 miles of the bike race, and I'm about an hour behind where I should be in terms of being able to finish the race. And I asked the people at the checkpoint, do you think there's any chance at all I can get there? And they're like, not really. Like, you're going to have to be like one of the front running riders' speed to be able to cover this last 20 miles distance off. And something in just side of me just sort of lit a fire in me, like them saying, no, there's no way you can do it. You've been too slow. Like you're terrible at this. So
Yeah.
I just thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I pushed and rode this bike as fast as I could. And on this single track, I felt like at times like the bike was out on the side of me and I'm just hanging on, you know.
Yes. Like a
And
cartoon.
like a cartoon, yeah. And I get to the last mile or so of the race, and you go up, and it's known as the Boulevard, and they line the streets, especially for the, back of the pack people. And here I am, like being pushed up the last part of the hill by all these other people there, and they're yelling and screaming me on. There's like a minute to finish this last sort of part of the mile to get to the end of the Leadman series, basically. And yeah, I'm doing yelled and screamed in, and I've got like tears running down my face. And I finished the race with 11 seconds to spare.
Oh my
Sixth
goodness.
last, but it was done, and it was like just the humbling experience of it all really was just incredible, and even just telling that story, it's the story I get the most sort of thoughts back of is just like, wow, how incredible it was to do something that you can't do again, and that was exciting for me as well.
I get the chills just hearing that. That is so epic and so satisfying, right? Because I've been at those races and I've been that person cheering at the end with people. And I've been there when they don't make it by 3 seconds. I've been there when they make the cutoff by seconds. And it's a different experience. Both of them are very powerful. And I have this little soapbox I get on with my partner. I'm always like, why are we so arbitrary with seconds? Like the person that came in 3 seconds after should get just as much reward and dopamine for finishing. But, we, for whatever reason, there's a cutoff time, but something about that and the people at the 80-mile mark saying, oh, I don't know, there's no way, you're kind of like lit a fire. And then here you are digging deeper and deeper than you have for hundreds and hundreds of miles of running to pull up from the back of the pack, have that different experience. I mean, it's so, I'd imagine in some ways it's humbling, and in other ways it's so inspiring because you found that maybe I can do this question, right?
It gave me some sort of more appreciation for going to the races that I had on after that as well, and not taking it for granted as well, and maybe starting to experience more of the race for what it is. Like as a competitor in ultra running, previously, like I would just go there. Winning was everything, with that real competitive driven mentality of like, I wouldn't even look around, or, I would very quickly. So I think I started to maybe experience the mountains or the people, and the why sort of changed, I guess, from that moment, which was neat for me as well.
So powerful. And again, because you signed up for something that seemed crazy that you weren't sure you could do because you got on a mountain bike. The first time my friend got me to sign up for an Ironman that never happened because of 2020. It got canceled in the pandemic, but I ended up doing a half in preparation for it. And the first time I did a triathlon, I went to go to the transition area and I put on my hat to get on my bike because I was just so used to like, oh, I have a hat in my drop bag. And then I
Yeah.
was trying to put my helmet on top. I was like, this, no, Lisa, I was just laughing at myself. Literally that same race, Dion, I did not know how to change the gears in my bike. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing an Olympic try and I did not know how to change the gears in my bike. And I did the whole bike race in the hardest gear. I was like walking my bike up the last bit of the hill. People are like, why don't you just slow down, change your gear? I was like, I don't know. So I think there's something so beautiful about that humbling, trying something new. You did that in this, you signed up for this huge challenge with something that was not in your wheelhouse. And then here you are telling me, like, this is one of the memories. This is one of the most powerful things that your mind goes back to, that if you could redo it, re-experience it, you would, right?
Yeah. Although once was enough on the
Yeah.
bike.
You're signing up for it again, but there's something special about it. You also mentioned something earlier that I want to pick up on, this element of healing that can come through these types of events. And it's not ultra running or even biking for everyone. It's different things and different ways we can challenge ourselves and grow. But you talked about moving through the doubt or the question of like, I can't do this. Can I do this? I don't know. And reconciling that, and then also contrasting that with your upbringing and things you went through that didn't feel good. So I'm wondering how you would describe, as you sit here today, how has your experiences in sports and ultra running, how have they felt healing for you?
Yeah, ultra running's been a really good part of my life for that purpose. I mean, I joke and I use the word joke loosely, like I don't really like ultra running. It's maybe coming towards me now a little bit more. I'm appreciating as I explained, but when I first started running these races, and it was multi-stage races to begin with, and then moving into the 100-mile races, like I didn't really find an element of particular joy there until I'd finished the race. So, training I don't find fun, or going to the races and pushing and trying to be at the front, trying to win them, like I didn't find that fun. And I think some of that was because I was going to these races using them to really push myself as hard as I can, to really, maybe in a way, like, I guess, belt myself up, like really punish myself for the things that had happened to me when I was younger, and that sort of, I was using like my childhood and those early years of my life where life was really quite, depressive and destructive and abusive, as a way, like ultra running felt a little bit like I can beat myself up about this and push through at the same time, and maybe use some of that negative energy to be at a level where I probably wouldn't have been without that. And so I really found myself digging deeper than I think I would have done without that experience as a child. And sometimes I rerunning these races thinking my childhood was difficult, more difficult than this race.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably pushing myself at a level that was too much. But when I'd get to the finish line, I'd find myself feeling like a sense of achievement like I hadn't felt before. So whilst during the race, I'd felt like really angry as a runner, and like using all the memories and the thoughts and the people that would have done things to me over the years or said things to me like that would really make me an angry sort of runner. When I get to the finish line, I'd feel like maybe I've just inched a little bit further forward as to being able to forget about that stuff. Unfortunately, it was probably inching for quite a long time rather than a big step change of saying, I still could never just get out of this mindset of like, of life. It was a tough part of my life from the age of 10 years old onwards into my early 20s. So, yeah, some of that has been fuel for the fire, and ultra running has been a really big part of helping me transition through that. I mean, as the story with Gobi was as well.
Yeah. We can fall into the trap of physical health equals mental health. And I'm someone who fully believes in investing in the physiology as a platform, right? Because if you are hungry, you might get angry, or if you haven't slept, other things feel hard. But we can think, oh, the person winning, they have it all figured out, or that means healthy. And I think sometimes we're using fuel or patterns that aren't actually healthy in order to win. And I don't know if that's what's happening for you. It makes me think of it when you describe that, but I also think about how, for me personally, I can be really competitive, but I'm not in running because I'm like, this is the weekend. I paid for this. I'm a solid mid packer. I don't really look at my stats. I used to not even wear a Garmin. My partner got me into wearing his old Garmin now, so that happens. But I don't want to track it. I just want to go out and have fun. And I've always loved, I'm a therapist, right? Like the emotional processing of it. I'm just out on the trail. I'm thinking about stuff. I remember something that's annoying or sticky, or there's shame or there's anger. And I can be like, rah, or or breathe it out, or take some time to just let it sort of cycle through me and my body. And I find that running, maybe because it's this meditative back and forth, right foot, left foot, in breath, out breath, can help us just process stuff, right? Just like going for a walk for some, just go for a walk in nature. And there's all these research studies that that's so good for us. So one of the things I hear is this like slow inching of processing the negativity and the things that you've been through and the abuse. And sometimes we, especially with anger, which sometimes we call a negative emotion, like we need to be able to have space where we can move through it constructively. So I hear this space, I mean, a lot of space in the Gobi Desert, right? Where you can be with whatever's coming up, whatever memory happens to come to mind for whatever reason, whatever person, whatever they said, you can notice your reactions to that. If you're angry, and especially like those more activating memories, they can give us energy and fuel and we can run, like run through it. And then at a certain point, like that same one's not coming up anymore, right? Something else. And so you're just inching through. So that I think is actually really healthy, right? And to then get to the finish and have this other realization of like, wow, that was hard and I did it and I can do it. Or, oh my God, I just came in first place, or, I'm on the podium. What's happening here? Like that, I feel like there's so many ways that can reinforce a healthy sense of identity, healthy processing of trauma, all that stuff. And I don't think people talk about that enough in ultra running. I think we're fixated on like, what gel do you use? Like, and I, okay, I want to know, what you like to eat, but I do feel like there's a depth to it in being with yourself and whatever comes up when things are hard, whatever things you tell yourself, other people told you, and having time and space and support, right? Because there's someone at the aid station and someone's carrying your shoes to the 30-mile mark or whatever, to be able to do that. I think that's something really beautiful about ultra running.
Agree, and that's been part of my journey as in the sort of learning process as well. Like many of the races I would do early on were stage races, so 155-mile races across the desert, maybe for 7 days, but you're carrying your own food and water. So they were more self-reliant, which was probably really good for me because that's what I wanted to do. Like I didn't need the help or support of others. Like I was still that sort of lone wolf sort of attitude in person and still working it out in my own head, like what I was doing the running for, and as we talked about then, the reasons why. And then when I started to get into more maybe hundreds and some of the 200s and some of the other events that I've been at, then I've started to have crew and support and people there, and realized, this is more of a team sport than you actually think to begin with. And it's great to be able to share these adventures with other people as well. And that's all, been pretty cool part of it as well.
Yeah, I've heard people say like, "Oh, you're running this far. What are you running from?" I'm like,
Mhm.
no, maybe not. What are we running towards? What are we running through? Who are we running with? I appreciate the concept of running as a team sport, and the transition from I got it, I'm gonna do it all myself, to actually this feels kind of nice.
Yeah.
Because I've been there too, signing up for things and like I just don't want to tell anybody. Like it's just my little secret. And for whatever reason, right? You just want to protect it, or you just want your space, or you're like, I'm just gonna do it by myself. Um, so a few more questions I have for you. I know you've talked a lot about finding Gobi on the trail and you've told that story a million times. I'm curious what's the life like with Gobi these days? Is he running around with you, or do you guys go out on family runs? What does that look like?
Well, she's 10 years old now. Now, of course, we don't exactly know how old she is. She might be older. She's fit and healthy and still likes to go walking and running, but a lot less running than, of course, the adventure across the desert in China. So, um,
I mean, for people who haven't heard that story briefly, how many miles she found you at the beginning of the race or early in the race and followed you for how many miles?
well, it's a 6 day, 7 day race, 155 miles long. She joins me on day two, but she joined a couple of American runners on day one of the race. She ends up being there for the whole 7 days of the event. She runs about 80 miles, 4 stages of the race. She's a little Chihuahua Shih Tzu mix, so it's an incredible feat. Temperatures around 125 degrees. This
Ouch.
little dog just, yeah, came out of nowhere, started running with the American runners on day one. On day two, she sort of starts running with me. And yeah, we formed this bond and friendship throughout the week that is unbreakable. And at one point, I had to decide whether to take the lead of the race or go back and help this dog across this water crossing that she can't cross on her own. And I decided to go back and help the dog. And it goes against everything I'm there to do. I'm a sponsored athlete at this point. I'm there to win the race. I'm in a really good position to take the lead at this point. But I find myself going back to help this dog, and it's a life-changing moment. I go back through the water first and second, continue running on, and I pick this dog up. And when I put her in my arms, I really look at her for the first time properly. Like she'd joined me the day before, we'd run together 25 miles a day before. But when I picked her up on this day, day three, and had her in my arms, like I could just see the love this dog just had for me, like nothing else, before. I mean, I'm happily married and I get that from my wife, but this dog just had it like instantly. And then I saw myself in the dog, like this is stray dog in the middle of the Gobi Desert, the fourth largest desert in the world. And it's like, what is she doing out here? What is she surviving on? Why is she joined this race? Like, why has she chosen me out of all the 100 runners there? And I see myself like stray dog boy on the streets, no family, no support, trying to put myself through school, difficult childhood. Here we are, these two lost souls, perhaps connected in this moment in the desert. And as I carry across the water, I become like this protector of this little dog. And that's the moment really when I start to fall in love with the dog, and I spend the rest of the race with her. And, we run other stages of the race together, and she's always by my side for the week. And at the end of it, I decide that I want to bring her home. And at this point in my life, I'm living in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Hmm.
And she can't get on the plane to fly home with me after the race because she needs to be tested to make sure she doesn't have any diseases. So she has to stay in China, and I fly all the way back to the UK. And someone's looking after her in China, and unfortunately, she goes missing in China. And yeah, they ring me and tell me that she's on the streets of a city of over 3.5 million people, and they don't know where she is. They can't look for her, and
So heartbreaking.
yeah. So I'm destroyed by that. I'm devastated, and especially after everything we'd been through out in the desert. And I had this great plan of her coming to live with me and have this wonderful new life that was now destroyed. That I decided to fly back to China and all the way back out to this city and start looking for her. And yeah, it was just a phenomenal adventure in the desert and moment that I just couldn't help myself be there to search for her. And we searched for 6 weeks. She was missing. And yeah, we finally find her in the city. And it was like meant to be, not only once in the desert, but the second time and against all odds. I mean,
Yeah.
I could never have imagined going back through the water to pick her up just where the whole journey would be. And now we live in the US. Gobi's traveled to 34 different states. We're currently in Las Vegas. It's Nevada reading week next week. It's a big month for us, the month of March in Las Vegas. So we're doing lots of different events around the city as well. And yeah, changed our life forever. Gobi's gone on to meet the royal family, presidents, movie stars, rock stars, and
Wow. Nice.
I love sharing it because it's like one act of kindness changes my life forever, and it's a simple act, right? And it doesn't cost anything to go back and help the dog carry her across the water. My goal is to get across the water as quick as I can, put it back down, catch first and second. But of course, the change happens as we cross the water together and moving on forwards. But so when I share that with kids, especially, at schools with the chapter book or the picture book, it's like, what would you do? Would you go back and help the dog, or would you take the lead of the race? And 99.9% of people are like, I'd go and help the dog too. And and it's a point of like realization for me, winning isn't everything, and winning really isn't that important. And that was a big moment for me, and it was a real life-changing moment. I spoke about those three other races earlier where I felt some big change. Well, of course, this was the biggest of them all.
Yeah. So profound, so much depth. And it's like another ultra to try to get Gobi back into your care, right? Like navigating these systems and filling out forms and getting help. And then Gobi goes missing, and Gobi's missing for 6 weeks. And it's like the ups and the downs and the challenges and the persistence and showing up and believing and all based on that moment of connection and that decision to go back. Because if you hadn't turned around, you wouldn't have that moment. You wouldn't have that powerful connection that, I mean, so you still have today. You carry around to schools all around Las Vegas and meet movie stars and presidents. And I mean, it's changed your life in such a profound way based on, oh, who's this dog on my ankles? And then, oh, we ran some miles together and Gobi can't get across the water without me. I gotta go back. I gotta show up for my people or my dog in this case.
And the element of the sort of search afterwards, like the team, the teamwork of these people, hundreds of people searching for Gobi, looking for her. They don't know me. They've never seen the dog before. Yet all of these people come together to help me find her. And I mean, I didn't find her, that's for sure. Thankfully to all the people that came and helped. And that was phenomenal. That was again another sort of moment in my life where I could feel the love from people. Like I'd go to those stage races and never really let anyone in. And this was a moment where I had to let people in to find Gobi, right? And so again, there's been a lot of transition through the sport and through this experience in particular, which has helped me as well.
Yeah. So, what is it like these days? Do you have moments of awe of the journey that you've been on with Gobi? What's it like? Just, I think it's you. Is it Lucha? Is that how you pronounce
Lucia, yeah. Yeah.
Lucha and Gobi? And is it Laura, your cat?
Yes, unfortunately, Lara the cat is no longer with us.
Oh,
Yeah,
rest in peace, Laura.
she lived till the age of 18. She had a fantastic life. She's got her own book out now as well called Lara the Runaway Cat. She was alive for the launch of that. The book's been out a couple of years now. So yeah, phenomenal to think, where the journey of life can take you. And I think that's one of the biggest elements when I go and speak at well, one of the great speaking events that I was invited to was the US Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. So I spoke in front of about 2,500 people there. And it was about my life journey and just where life can take you, that like an ultra marathon, right? At points you're running along, you're running well, you're doing 7 minute, 8 minute miles, you're knocking out the pace, you're listening to some music or you're loving the sounds of the birds, and you're like, this is easy. 5 miles later, you're on your haunches, vomiting or trying to go up a climb that just goes on forever, and you think, God, this is terrible. Why am I here? Questioning life decisions, right? So it's that roller coaster ride. And that's my life journey, and I love sharing that because it's like you just never know where life can take you as well, and it's like these sliding door moments that happen along the way, and which way do you take them? And one of the best pieces of I guess feedback on my journey was my grade 8 English teacher emailed us about a year or so ago, and she said, I'm I read the book and I'm really sorry to hear about your childhood. And she said, I knew there was something about you, but I never asked, and I should have asked. And I wish I'd have done more as a teacher and as a person. And she was really incredibly sad and sorry about that. But she was just like, I just admire your drive and determination and will to want to make something of yourself, even though you had absolutely nothing in life. And you've had this amazing journey with this story with Gobi. And I loved reading the book. And then the last line of the email was along the lines of like, plus the English in the book was really good too.
I was wondering about that. She's like, also from
Yeah.
the English teacher. Great job. A plus.
And I think that must be something that, yeah, for her to have seen me, of course, what we're talking 40 years, not quite, but 38 years ago or something, it would have been. Yeah, to now this story, that shows you just where life can take you as well. Yeah. So it's a rewarding journey, even though at times it can be a hell of a tough journey too.
Yeah. So, what would you say to someone who's listening now who's thinking something to themselves like, oh, yeah, this guy can do it, and they might make assumptions that you ran track in high school or something, you've always been athletic, or like, oh, but I can't, or oh, that sounds so crazy. I feel so stuck to the couch. This could never be me. What would you say to that person?
Well, in my early 20s, I was a pack a day smoker, heavy drinker, big eater, was about 250 pounds. And I was never the ultra runner that I became. And that all really turned around. Like I was leading myself to an early grave until I made a bet with a friend one night as to who could run the half marathon distance the fastest. And we were drunk when we made this bet. It was his 30th birthday party. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning when he was telling everyone that he'd run this half marathon the year before. And just over 3 months' time, he was going to run it again. Now, I was a fit kid. Like I played a lot of sport at school, but when I became in Australia, you can drink at 18, and I was doing it at 14, I think.
Yeah.
So I, had some bad vices there, and but I always thought in my head I was still, fit, or I've got this competitive spirit, right? So now my friend and I are having this conversation, and I'm like, oh, I could run that half marathon race, like probably belittling him a little, sort of saying, that's nothing. That doesn't sound that far. I could do that. And there was a bunch of people listening to us have this conversation. So they started to laugh, like, slapping their knees and rolling around on the ground, laughing, saying, there's no way you could run for a bus, let alone 13.1 miles. And it ticked something in me, like, you know, people telling me wasn't going to be anything in life, was never going to make it. I'm a loser. Like, so I thought, yeah, I can do this. I bet you, I said, Dan, I said, I bet you I can do this. But unfortunately, I kept talking. I'd had so much to drink. I said, I bet you I can do this, Dan, and I'll even give you 5 minutes head start.
Whoa. Confidence.
We made this agreement that the loser had to take the other couple out for dinner at this expensive restaurant. And at the time, we're living in Manchester in England. So where all the Manchester United soccer players go, it was going to be a big award, like a big meal, like a big win. um, if you won. So I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Anyway, I go home. I wake up the next morning. I'd completely forgotten about the bet until Lucia said to me, hey, you made this dumb bet with Dan last night. You're going to beat him in a half marathon race. And I was like, oh yeah, I did, didn't I? I was like, and then all those people laughing at me came back to my mind as well. And I thought, I wonder how far I can run. So later that day, I tried to run around the block, and I couldn't run to the first corner, without being out of breath and struggling. And by the time I got around the block, I was like exhausted, and it was like, wow, I am really unfit. There's no way I could run 13.1 miles. But what I did want to do was see if I could prepare a little bit. Tomorrow I'd try the block again, right? The next day I started to run further. A week or two later, I was like running a mile. It kept transforming. Like suddenly I was running 5 or 6 miles, and Dan would message and say, hey, have you done any training for this race? And I'd be like, no, I haven't even got out of the pub yet. I'm still in the bar. I was telling him a lie, like, but secretly I was using that energy of those people laughing at me like it had dug something up. And of course, the childhood stuff, I was like, oh, wow, this is really pushing me to want to prove to these people I can beat him. Fast forward to the race day, he sees me for the first time since we'd made the bet like 3.5 months earlier. His jaw drops. He sees I've lost a lot of weight, and he knows the race is on. I know I have to beat him by 5 minutes. So when the gun goes off to start the race, I push as hard as I can, and I run with Dan always behind me, but I don't know, of course, where he is throughout the race. I get to the finish line in a time of like 1 hour 28, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means, right? But all I know is I have to beat Dan by 5 minutes. So I'm like sitting there watching the watch like go by 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I think Lucia was there at the race too. She finishes, and then the 5 minutes goes past. Dan hasn't finished at this point. So I'd beaten Dan. And I was ecstatic about that because we're going to that fancy restaurant for the bet, right?
Yes.
But also, like, for the very first time that I could ever remember, I felt good about myself for achieving something. And it didn't matter, it was 13.1 miles. It could have been 5 kilometers, but I'd had probably the first mindset change in a long time that maybe I could achieve more than I could ever have thought of before. And I know that was the most longest answer ever to your question, but you you can achieve much more than you really think you can. And that was for me the groundbreaking moment of thinking, hey, this running is actually maybe good for me. And as I said, I don't even like running. It's been this mechanism for me to be able to deal with a lot of stuff in my life, and maybe I'm just starting to like it now.
But it sort of came into your life in these different ways. And Lucia's a pretty serious athlete too, right? I mean,
And she loves running. She's positive running, singing in the
yes.
mountains, she's completely different to me, but that's a really good balance for us. And I push her to be more competitive, to want to get a bit more out of these races, and I'm a bit of a stickler, I guess, for her. But she also brings the better side out of me too, which is a really good balance.
Yeah. I was thinking, and you're telling your half marathon story about the first time I signed up for a half marathon. I went into this volunteer office for American Heart Association, and it's like an info session. And I put down my credit card and I signed up to fundraise, and I walked back to my car. And I remember thinking, that's really, I don't know if I can do this. Like 13.1 miles. Like I usually run 3, or maybe I don't count my miles when I run them. Maybe I don't even know the longest distance. Maybe I've even run that before, but I didn't know. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. And then I did the training, ended up becoming a coach the next season. I remember meeting with people like this partner I got in a meditation retreat and telling them, and they're like, oh, I could never do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. No, you got this. Come on. No, you can do it. I was like, you can rock it. You can run, walk it. Like people do it all the time. Come sign up for the training. Sign up for the training, did a half marathon, like, and just every weekend adding another mile. And just like you said, like, oh, I run out of breath getting down the block, but the next time I can go 2 blocks, and the next time I can go further. And we forget how adaptable and changeable our bodies are. And yes, there's seasons of life and all of that, but even for me coming back postpartum, it's like, oh, it's humbling, right? Oh, if I haven't been running and then I go out, I'm like, oh, this used to be so easy. I used to like, oh, we did 20 miles this weekend, no big deal. And then I was like, I did 6 miles, yay. Like it's a mindset shift, but a little can turn into a lot, actually faster than I think we think, especially at the beginning. We're like, oh, that's far. No, instead of, oh, that's far, maybe. What's the first step?
Dan likes to take a lot of the credit for my journey. So he likes to take it, and Lucia was sort of more uh, my next step, getting to my first marathon as well. She signed us up for Marathon de Medoc, which is a race, not a race, but a marathon across the wine region in France where you drink and eat, you weigh for 26 miles. So yeah, she likes to say, well, I got you to the marathon and the ultra marathons after that as well. So, but yeah, I mean, you just never know really what you can achieve. And I think that for me was a big part of taking up the running and then moving on to different distances and kept pushing. And yeah, I think if anyone was listening that wanted to try something, and doesn't need, it could be learning a language, it could be playing an instrument, right? I think it's like, get out there and have a go at, see how you go, and surround yourself with the right people, positive people, and people that can help you achieve those things as well.
Yeah. That's a very Australian saying, right? Have a go.
Yeah, it is actually.
I love it. Just have a go. It's so simple. It's so like light. Like, oh, I'm just gonna have a go. Right?
Yeah.
Just gonna go see what happens. So, how can people connect with you and follow your journey? Meet Gobi. Obviously, they can get the book Finding Gobi by Dion Leonard. There's, like I said, there's a kid's book, there's a chapter book, and then the Lara book as well. I haven't read, but that's on my list now.
Yeah, I'm findinggobi.com. Everything social media wise is at Finding Gobi, where you'll see, of course, lots of pictures and videos and reels of Gobi and information about any upcoming events as well. We have events at the moment in Las Vegas, and then we have, I think, some events in Sacramento in June as well. So, yeah, all around the West Coast for the next few months at least. If anyone wants to follow more of my actual ultra running side, I'm on Facebook as Dion Leonard Ultra Runner, and share some of my adventures on there as well.
And you also do motivational speaking, right? Or if someone was interested in that, would it be dionleonard.com?
Yeah, dionleonard.com. And one minute I'm telling a picture book story to children 4 or 5 years old, and the next I'm at a corporate event sharing the life journey as well. So yeah, it's a really blessed to be able to get out there and meet people and share Gobi stories as well.
It sounds like a beautiful life. I'm so grateful you've shared it with us in all these ways. And I'm grateful that Gobi found you. I know in the book you talk about, it feels like Gobi really chose you, right? Like, hey, you, I'm coming with you. I'm still coming with you. I'm still right
And
with you.
look, if she could talk, that's why I'd ask her as well. Like, that'd be the first thing I'd ask would be why me? And yeah, it'd be interesting to understand her answer as well. Because yeah, did I find her or did she find me? That's also another thing that I often think. But yeah, it's a great partnership, that's for sure. And I get to hang out with her, my best friend every day, and my wife too, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a good life. It's a good life. Well, I encourage anyone who hasn't read the story. I mean, I think these days we just need reminders of moments of inspiration, of things that are possible. Is there anything, obviously, this story is plenty, but is there anything else in general in life that you find that brings you hope in moments that are difficult?
I think it's always, I think what you touched on there, isn't it? And a very much connection with the story of Gobi is like we're really incredible people, and especially incredible when we come together for the right reasons. And what we can go out there and achieve is remarkable. And I think that's something to keep in mind at times. You know, there's often times where I think we can see the bad, or there's lots of terrible press out there, and it's like we do lots of good things together as human beings as well. And yeah, be kind to others, be kind animals, and I think the world's a better place. And I think that's why Gobi's story doesn't have a time date to it. Like, not once have you said to me, "When did this story happen?" Like, it's just a beautiful love story, uh, and it's a heartwarming, inspiring story that has many different people coming together to give this dog a better home. And that's the beautiful part of what we can all do together and achieving something great as well.
And just any act of kindness and the opportunity that that can bring, and just sharing your story. I mean, there's something as small as you talked about your coach telling you to count 1, 2, 3 on the trail. And I started doing that and I really like it.
I still find myself doing that. Yeah.
Small detail that's like, is it life changing? I like it. I use it. And it's like you just happen to share that in your story. So I think just doing the things we do, sharing what our heart's feeling, what we're feeling called to, and being open for that opportunity for connection, for that opportunity to, extend a hand, literally or metaphorically. I think it's really beautiful. So thank you again for being here today, for sharing this journey with us, and for all you're doing. I want to really acknowledge and honor the transformation you've been through. I'm a trauma therapist. I sit with people and work through hard things, professionally for a long time, and I have some context for like what that really can mean and look like, and how difficult that can be. And so just want to acknowledge and honor that, and thank you for
Thank you.
showing up on the trail and doing that work even when you don't know what it is, and following it forward and sharing all the healing and all the love that's come to you through your journey with us. I think that's kind of like the highest hope in my mind that we can all do, is just take whatever we've been through, especially the really gnarly stuff, and in some way transmute it, and then somehow it can turn into gold and we share it, right?
Thanks. Yeah, and that's, a big part of the reason why I love sharing this story with people of all ages, is to give hope that, yeah, life is a journey. It's going to be lows, but there's lots of highs. Like, let's hang out for the highs a bit more often, believe in ourselves as well. And that's something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dion. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It's been great talking with you.
Likewise. Thanks so much for listening. My hope is that you walk away from these episodes feeling supported and like you have a place to come to find the hope and inspiration you need to take your next small step forward. For more information and resources, please visit howwecanheal.com. There, you'll find tons of helpful resources and the show notes for each show. Thanks for your messages, feedback, and ideas about the podcast. I love hearing from you, and I so appreciate your support. There are lots of ways you can support the show, and I'm grateful for every little bit of love you share. If you love the show, please leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can always visit howwecanheal.com/podcast to share your thoughts and ideas as well. Before we wrap, I want to be clear that this podcast isn't offering any prescriptions. It's not advice or any kind of diagnosis.
Your decisions are in your hands, and we encourage you to consult with any healthcare professionals you may need to support you through your unique path of healing. In addition, everyone's opinion on this show is their own, and opinions can change, right? Guests share their thoughts, not that of the host or sponsors. I'd also like to send just huge thanks to everyone who helps support this podcast directly and indirectly. Alex, thanks for taking care of the babe and the fur babies while I record. Lastly, I'd like to give a shout out to my big brother Matt, who passed away in 2002. He wrote this music, and it makes my heart so happy to share it with you here.